Portugal's economy is healing as it prepares to shake free of its bailout shackles. That optimistic outlook is from the International Monetary Fund. The latest numbers, they look pretty good as well. We've got economic growth on the up, tourism and exports also on the rise, while unemployment is now falling. RT's Andrew Farmer's just returned from his assignment in Portugal, now joining us live here in the studio. Good to see you, Andy. So ultimately, well, is it all looking good? I mean, certainly the numbers sound good.
Those numbers sound good, don't they? But you have to remember that even if Portugal does manage a clean exit from this bailout programme next month, it still has an awful lot of problems. It's running a budget deficit of over 4%, and that means it still has to make 16 billion euros worth of cuts by the end of 2015. And on top of that, even though unemployment has come down by 2%, the general figure is still 15%, and youth unemployment here is 35%. So in order for things to improve for them, the economy does have to improve a lot more. While I was in Portugal last week, we were able to speak to one of the editors of one of Portugal's leading financial dailies, and this is his assessment.
There's a vast majority of people who live under hardship, and even if they are not considered poor, they are. I mean, they have very strict lives in terms of financial budgets for their family life. If you add that up to 15% of unemployment, if you consider that more than half, 40% of our entire population depends on the state not to be poor, for instance, I mean, you kind of understand that there's still a long way to go before you can state that Portugal is back. And when you state that, you are talking
Andy,
about the
it's sounding
country.
pretty glum there, in fact. We also know about the unemployment numbers. In fact, the gap, we can look right here now. I mean, the gap between the rich and poor and the unemployment issues, well, it's just a storm on the horizon, isn't it?
It is, and certainly during times of austerity in the last 3 years, living standards for many people have plummeted. That's because there were great cuts in public spending, wages were cut, pensions were cut, and so the gap, as you say, between rich and poor has grown. On top of that, there's great concern about a demographic time bomb too.
Yes.
That's because during the last 3 years, huge numbers of Portugal's working population decided to up sticks and leave. 120,000, in fact, left in 2012. In the same year, that was a record number since 1960. In the same year, Portugal experienced its lowest birth rate on record. And people are concerned, particularly economists, are saying, look, if you've got a shrinking working population, it's very hard for you then to grow your economy. Yeah. And if you can't grow your economy, it's difficult to reduce your budget deficit. Yeah. Yep. And if you can't do that, you're going to be having to implement more austerity. So that's a concern at the moment.
I mean, as you say, the concern is that of long-term growth. The short-term numbers may sound good. The long-term growth are the main concerns here. We had a chance to speak to Rui Tavares, an MEP. He said at this point in Portugal, people have never been so desperate.
We haven't had as many people emigrating from Portugal since the 60s, when we had a colonial war and a brutal dictatorship. So now we've had, in 1 year, more than 1% of the population going away, and it is the most skilled, the most educated part of the society. There's a great need in Brussels and Berlin and other capitals to present Portugal and Ireland as success stories. They will claim that their reforms in Portugal have been a success. Well, they haven't. They have destroyed the country, destroyed the society and the economy. I will say that I have never seen, I'm 41 years old, I have never seen Portugal as discouraged as now. So the depression is not only an economic depression, it's also a psychological, collective depression.
So there's an MEP right there saying that actually, under the cover of it all, we've got major issues here, both short-term and long-term. But certainly this story from you, Andy, not the last we'll hear from you in Portugal.
No, we'll be looking to see how Portugal is trying to attract foreign investment through golden visas and also its special relationship with Angola.
All right, very good. Andy Farmer, looking forward to more of your stories. Thanks very much.